Sion is the solo bolo champ that always does more damage than you expect, and he's the only champion you can die on 10 times and still have an excuse. But I have found a player who hit Master Tier not only playing Sion Jungle instead of top, but also using OMNISTONE as his only keystone, as well as a pretty strange build. I interviewed him and found out one big secret why OMNISTONE might actually be the best rune in the game, and when used in a specific way is way more broken than anyone realizes. If you like to stay up to date on the new pro builds, U.GG has created ProBuildStats.com, a sleeker, newer and more up-to-date site for all your pro build needs. One which has all of your favourite pros, including LPL players. And they are sponsoring today's video. The site is designed for ease of use. The items are already sorted by build order, simply build them in the order shown, expand a match and get the full runes, skill path and post-game stats. They have picked standout performances and builds from the current patch, in addition to the usual live feed, and let you sort by matchup so you can get a build tailored to your current needs. If you don't want to see builds from a specific pro, team or region, then click the trash icon and block them from showing up in your recommended builds. You can manage these in the settings in the top right, without even needing to create an account. Want to know what the pros are playing on the current patch? Pro Build Stats aggregates the top 20 champions by pick and win rate, so you know what's strong at the highest levels of play. Check out ProBuildStats.com in the video description. Our player today has the perfect name, Sion Jungle King.
Sion Jungle King.
And he is the highest rated Sion Jungle player in the world, so I think it's fair. His real name is Kobe, and he started playing League with his brother back in Season 3. Back then, he started off in Bronze. In Season 4, he started playing Ranked exclusively, but he could never find a champion he really liked. He'd try out loads of stuff. One of the things he would play is the old Pantheon pre-rework, where he would go for a cheese kill at level 2 with Ignite to get First Blood. I'm pretty glad they reworked this champion. Season 5, he had 106 champions played in a season. He was still so undecided about what he wanted to main. It was only in Season 6 when he discovered Sion. By this point, Sion had already been reworked, and he actually started by playing him in the jungle before even trying top lane. Finally, he'd found a champion that he liked, and immediately it brought him up to gold and then to platinum. In Season 7, he was aiming for diamond, but at the time, it was the Ardent Sensor meta, so he had to decide, would he try and abuse the meta thing, or would he stick with Sion and see if he could make it work? Well, what he actually did is put them together. He decided to try and create Ardent Sensor Sion support, which he argues sounds troll, but works, because of Stoneborn Pact, an old rune that marks an enemy after you CC them, letting your teammates heal if they hit the same enemy. Very similar to the modern Font of Life. Who knows, maybe you can build Sion as a healing support in Season 11. It still sounds pretty awful to me, but it actually did get him to Diamond for the first time back then. Season 8 he told me he took a break from climbing, which probably means he was hard stuck. In Season 9 he decided to get some coaching, to set him up for his most try-hard season yet. He swapped back to Sion Jungle, and started to climb, with a Bruiser tank build of Cinder Hulk, Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra. His goal was one-shotting squishy champions with a single combo. He actually ended the season in his Master promos, just a couple games away from Master. Diamond won 100 LP. When we were talking, he did not confirm or deny hitting Master during preseason, so it's not a great sign. He also then took a big break in Season 10 to instead get Legend in Hearthstone. He must have been pretty mad about not getting to Master if he swapped games. But in Season 11, like a lot of players, all the new changes brought him back. Early in the season, he discovered the Prowler's Claw Sion combo, after seeing the one and only Boss use it. This combo lets Sion catch up to enemies easily, whether in human or zombie form. This brought back his love of the champion, and he got right back into Ranked. He'd messed around with prototype OMNISTONE when it was added late in Season 9, but never really knew how to use it. In Season 11 when he was testing out Sion, he was trying to figure out which runes fit him best. He was struggling to make a decision. For Jungle, Grasp of the Undying, which is one of Sion's best runes, was out. It only works on champions, so it's useless in the jungle. He tried Glacial Augment, Aftershock, Hail of Blades, but none of them fit him perfectly in all situations. So he remembered OMNISTONE, and while researching, found out about a secret technique that lets you optimize its use. I'll talk about it very soon. For a jungler, this rune became perfect. With his new build and runes, once again he climbed to his Master promos, but this time much earlier in the season. In June, not taking any risks, he won 3 games and hit Master finally. So OMNISTONE actually has a very cool mechanic named Smart Keystones. People think this rune is fully random, but it's actually not, and you can figure out which rune you're going to get next. Here's a perfect situation to explain it. Kobe is playing AD Sion in this clip. This lines up with one of the gameplay situations that OMNISTONE has. It's like a rule that Riot created. If you are near a low health enemy champion, and you're building attack speed or attack damage, which he is, then Hail of Blades is the next rune you're going to get. There are a few of these rules that you can learn. Conqueror comes, for example, when you have high health, and so does an enemy that you're fighting, helping you fight them a bit better. Fleet Footwork comes when you're low HP, before level 9, as it's much worse in the late game. Dark Harvest is more likely whenever you're near a low health enemy champion. Predator is more likely only when you're not near an enemy champion, and in fact you'll almost never get it when you're in combat. Summon area is more common if you're building heal and shielding power and near an ally, so unless you are playing support healing Sion, you probably won't get that one. Or Glacial Augment is common if you own an item with a slow active, and this rune combos well with Stride Breaker for an extra slow onto the enemies. These all sound complicated, but the system just gives you the best rune it can find for the situation. So if you are near a low HP enemy, Dark Harvest will always be great. Speaking of Dark Harvest, it's also special with Omnistone. Any stacks you get with it level up your other keystones with more damage or attack speed, making all of your runes stronger for free. Omnistone is actually the best keystone to have if you can use all of them well. For one reason, you can chain keystones in fights. By level 10, your keystone is on a 4-second cooldown. So you get one, use it, and then in 4 seconds you'll get another one. Compare this to Electrocute for example. At level 10 it'll be 22.3 seconds cooldown. In that time you could have used Dark Harvest, swap to another rune, use that, then get Dark Harvest again with the smart system, use it, swap, and then maybe even get Dark Harvest a third time, ready to use it again, as these smart keystones are not limited. Sion is a great champion for this rune as he can effectively use all the keystones. Precision and Domination are great with his AD builds, Resolve only contains Aftershock and Grasp, which both work great, and Inspiration eliminates everything except Glacial Augment, which is a common rune on Sion top. But why does he play Sion Jungle instead of top lane? Well, for Kobe, he started playing it because he wasn't good at top lane, but Sion is also the best jungler at counter ganking, long range ganking, and has a surprisingly healthy clear, so healthy that Kobe buys a control ward instead of potions. Starting on a buff, Sion has 3 options. He doesn't need to decide which option he wants to choose before he starts, he can adapt as he gets more information as the game goes on. He can full clear all of his camps in 3 minutes 25, and you can do blue and gromp at the same time. This works well if you're starting opposite to the enemy jungler, as you can be greedy and still get the crab, so you can choose this route once you see where the enemy jungler started. With every clear, start W, but not until you need it. Having Q at level 1 to counter an invade is way better, so make sure you don't need it first. But start W if you're just jungling, as it makes your clear super healthy, and it gives him bonus HP every time he kills a camp. Use it at 126 so the cooldown starts and it comes back earlier. Make sure you maximize your shield use while clearing, getting it as low as possible but still using the explosion damage. If your shield dies before you explode it, your clear gets really slow. His second option is to do a 5 camp clear, ending at about 318 into a crab contest. If you land your CC skills in an early fight, then 2v2s and 3v3s are very winnable. This path works great if you have priority in your lane so they can join a fight first. Finally, you can also do a special 4 camp clear. This starts the exact same 3 camps on your starting side, then look at your lanes. Here, Kobe sees that bot lane is fighting a lot, so he makes the choice to do 4 camps and then gank bot lane. The exact same thing works great if your bot lane is pushing hard. Kobe knows the enemy jungler is going to gank his pushing vulnerable lane, so he sneaks into the bush, sweeping to make sure there aren't any wards, and hides, ready to get a kill if this Nautilus can actually hit anything. A fully charged Sion Q from outer vision instantly wins the fight, and they chase for another kill. This is a perfect early game. Sion is the best counter ganking jungler in the game. If he knows a gank is coming, Kobe walks through this path into a side bush, sweeping to avoid the rare wards that could be in these bushes, and then waiting. The enemy will walk up, and a fully charged Sion Q will be waiting for them. Kobe does this consistently even in other parts of the map. If enemies are chasing, you can do the same. Sit in a bush out of vision and use the time to charge up your Q. In any even skirmish, if you land a fully charged Q, you're going to win it. You can even get into the alcove while your bot lane baits a fight. There's no way enemies will expect you to come from there. At this time, if you clear all your camps and crab, you can base with 800 gold and get double ruby crystal, or if you're doing the AD build, you can get some longswords. He continues with this bush camping counter gank style. Kobe focuses on trying to get kills for his laners. Sion is a very good low income jungler because of his great ability to set up plays, but if you think you are the win condition and you take some kills, you can also function as the carry with a high damage build. You have burst potential on a whole team and the ability to one-shot squishies. Sion functions well without much income because of his W passive's bonus HP. Every time he full clears the jungle, he's getting about 130 permanent health from it. Red jungle is much better than blue jungle because red jungle gives more XP, and it's better for Sion because of his W. The more monsters there are, the more health you'll get. Raptors give you 35 max health, Krugs gives you 51 health, and red gives you 15, totaling 101 max health just from clearing red side once. Sion's first power spike comes at level 6. With his ult unlocked, his ganks are incredible. It's just like Nocturne ult in that it's impossible to tell where he is until he gets into vision, so you can cover a lot of distance very fast and surprise enemies. But it's also a longer range than Nocturne ult. Nocturne is one of the best junglers in the game partially because of this ultimate. Sion's is much harder to land, but if you hit it then it's very rewarding. When Kobe's choosing where to gank, he tries to ult against lanes with no mobility so it can't be dodged. You'll see him running into the bot lane tower to hit hit AD carries a lot because of this reason, otherwise he tries to combo it with lanes that have CC. Make sure you're not wasting your ult in lanes where your team has no CC and you're against a more mobile champion, because they're just going to dodge it and you'll fall behind. As Sion Jungle, Kobe has a special combo he uses on Dragon to ensure he always wins the Smite fight. Q plus Smite is around 1300 to 1600 damage, so hardly any jungler can beat it, especially if you're the one doing the Dragon. It's much harder to steal. It does also work on Baron, but it's harder to time the damage, as your team will still be hitting it. And also if you're tanking Baron you get the debuff, which makes your damage lower, and tanking Baron is your job as Sion, but it can still give you an edge. Sion's first item is massive, it's another huge power spike. He has so many options here. Prowler's Claw if you want to be a full damage carry, use it to stick on the enemies. Stride Breaker is another thing he builds. It's got lots of AD, but it comes with an extra CC that sets up your fully charged Q. Even Sunfire Cape is good first if you're the main tank. You still have super high base damage and can act as a frontline, which is valuable in solo queue when they're so rare. Or for more survivability, Kobe has even been testing Gore Drinker for more sustain in fights. Sion is pretty much happy to build anything. In mid game your focus is getting picks. Ult for picks on someone who's mispositioned, or camp in a bush waiting for an enemy to come ward it, and land a fully charged Q on them. If you're doing the full AD build with Prowler's Claw first, you can bush camp anywhere on the map. You should invade and get kills 1v1. With this early AD item you can 1v1 any squishy champion. Sion is best when surprising from a bush, so with Sweeper you can sneak in and set up free kills. For 1v1s, Keystone can matter a lot and can help you a lot. For example, if you have Predator first, it can help you catch up to get CC, or having the damage runes can help you get a kill. The tank build in mid game focuses more on using your early tankiness to take fights, and win these by having a more balanced team comp than the enemies. In these team fights, Sion can do two things depending on his team comp. If his team needs an engage, Sion is perfect for it with his ult. You can either try and get a flank ult to try and surprise engage on enemies, or stick with your team and be a frontline. By level 16 his ult does a lot of damage, but he has no way to leave, so only engage if your team wants to take a 5v5 and you know you can win it. Otherwise, if he doesn't have to engage, Sion can be more of a peel tool. He has a lot of CC, so he can use ult close up and Q on top of his carries to keep enemies away while his team does damage. If you're doing the full AD build, it's not that good for team fighting because it's very hard to stay alive while doing damage. So either keep going for picks, or just make sure you're one-shotting someone when you get in the fight, and then using your zombie passive well. Here's a perfect example of a peel fight. The goal of this is to stop the enemies doing Baron, which works. Sion positions in a bush to charge up his full Q out of vision. This sets up a kill and he ults in to guarantee it. Sion then peels back to stop Vlad rushing into his backline, and his team leaves this 4v5 after stopping the Baron and getting a free kill. It's not flashy, but it is perfectly played. Sion even has a secret combo that gives him an extra stun, which might actually be a bug, we're not sure. If you ult point blank right in front of an enemy and then press Q immediately, when the ult knockup runs out, the stun portion of the ult is extended more than normal, which allows you to fully chain CC them by guaranteeing a Q knockup will also land. The Q doesn't get used during the ult, but it does somehow knock them up for longer, so then you press Q again to start channeling it for the second knockup. And I couldn't make a Sion video without mentioning the Baus special. Sion ult does AoE damage which can hit towers. So with a full damage build, a charged up ultimate does stupid damage to towers which can be game winning in some situations, even if it just speeds up your push before the enemies respawn. But when is Sion Jungle good to pick? Against assassins, if they're mobile and have lots of movement speed or dashes like Diana, that means they're hard to lock down, so they would counter Sion. If you're playing against lower mobility assassins like Kha'Zix or Shaco that only have one dash, you can bait it out and then CC them afterwards. If you're playing against healing champions like Red Kayn or Viego, they're not very good matchups, but your plan should never be to 1v1 them, your team can help you. Any champion that has a stun is going to be annoying for Sion, so you need to be careful when you're charging your Q, otherwise they'll cancel it. Try and get their CC to be used first so then you can fully channel your Q. Sion Jungle's absolute worst matchups are Echo and Hecarim. Kobe says he simply just can't keep up with them, and often gets bullied and invaded. He does ban Katarina every game, who is pretty good against Sion, but even he says it's mostly just a personal hatred, and that something like Echo or Hecarim would be better bans. His best build is starting Hail Blade, Control Ward, and a potion. His first item is Prowler's Claw, then he buys Resistance Boots. Second item he goes tank item, like Deadman's, Force of Nature, Abyssal Mask, or Spirit Visage if he has a healing support. He prefers the second item to be tanky because of the bonus health he should have on his W. It really gives you a very strong mid game. If his team needs more damage, he gets Titanic Hydra and Sterex. If his team needs more tankiness, then he gets another one of the tank items. If his team has a lot of AD, he's actually still buying Black Cleaver. and the cooldown reduction is good for Sion ult. Otherwise he'll finish off the build with tank items. Kobe has also been testing some new builds, like Sunfire Cape first or Stride Breaker first. These work great on Sion and the rest of the build stays the same. The Prowler's Claw build has the most damage and the fun combos. The Sunfire build is full tank but you still have damage with Titanic Hydra, and Stride Breaker gives you a mix of damage and extra CC to help you land more Qs. For his runes he goes Omnistone, even with Biscuit Delivery, which he says helps a lot with early skirmishes. Then his secondaries are Resolve, which are always amazing on Sion. Thanks again to ProBuildStats.com for sponsoring this video, link in the description. Kobe has a Twitch stream, which is linked below, and I am also streaming playing Sion Jungle and some other off-meta champions in Diamond 2 on our climb to Master at twitch.tv/HappyChimeNoises, so come watch.